Hello and welcome back. In the short lecture, we're going to learn about configuring iOS device-specific settings by using a configuration option called Profile. So far, we have learned from device configuration by creating different profile types for Windows 10 as well as Windows 8.1 and 8.1 phone devices. But now we are jumping into iOS section. In this iOS section, to create for the iOS specific settings, you can click on create iOS specific and give a proper name and give a description. In the platform, you can choose as iOS. By configuring iOS, you can configure a different type of profile types. These profile types are device specific features or can be device specific restrictions and similar settings like we did worked with in the previous explanations on email or trusted certificates are SEP certificate, PKCS certificate and PKCS imported certificate, which we worked on Windows 10 device configurations, and also for the VPN and Wi-Fi, including the custom URI options. All these we already worked, but we are again going to have a look on these specific settings. But let's have a specific settings to be configured for iOS specific devices. To begin with that, I'm going to choose here device specific features. So you can either enable or disable that device specific features. For example, in this case, AirPrint. To configure this AirPrint option, you can give the IP address and the path of that printer and also the port number and TSL if it is enabled on that specific printer. To get the information, you need to work on your Mac devices whether all these configurations are already available. If so, you can simply get that information. To find that information, you can type ipfind as the one of the command which can be typed in the terminal. You can check out this steps, like you can open your terminal from the application and utilities section and then go back to the terminal and type ipfind, and that would actually gives the information along with the port and the URL of that complete printer information, and that gives the information so that you can simply ping to that your printer and select the IP address or the note down your IP, and you can configure this IP address here. In this case, you need to type it here, and later point you can also give the further configurations. For example, the specific to the port, the path would be /IP port 1. So whatever it was mentioned here, that should be given. So this is how it's going to work. So if I want me to put these values, how would I put it? Let me simulate that information for you. This is how I will be writing this information. Like the IP address goes the output, whatever it is coming from my ping results, and the port already mentioned here 631, and the path would be the /IP port 1. Till that the path whatever it is available that I would be taking up. So then I would simply add here that would added the AirPrint and click OK, so that the settings would be automatically configured. Now let's go back to the home screen layout. These settings configure the app layout and folders on the dock and home screen of iOS devices. To configure any of these specific settings, at least iOS 9.3 or latest available on those devices. And if you look at here the configuration, you can add maximum 6 items, not more than that. So let's add one of the item. If I click on add for the docking, not for the folders, not for the pages, but just for the docking, and if I start adding here the 6 of them, to add this I can click add here, and then it is asking me whether this is going to be app or folder. If I give a folder, I should be able to give a folder name. For example, this would be my education apps, maybe something like that I can give here. And now the list of the pages also I can add inside this, the page number 1. So here the page number I can give has since the educational, so I can give it has Microsoft apps which are relevant to the education. So that I'm going to group it actually so that I can find out on the iOS devices. And let's also add the app name and the app bundle. So to get this app name app name can be anything, right? You can say that calculator is just a calc if you want, but bundle is a unique number, that a unique name which is given by mm, Apple as the company. When they develop the iOS, they are giving this bundle information. So you need to go to their website. This is where it's going to be all the bundle information was written. For example, if you're looking for the notes, you should be giving here .com, that is com.apple, I'm sorry, com.apple mobile notes. You need to give this information here in the app bundle. That way it's gonna give here like notes. I'm just giving here notes. Like that, you can add all the required information. And also there's a Microsoft site. This is the Microsoft site where you have all this information, which is again taken from the Apple website. And these links I have already pasted in the description of this video. If not, if you don't find, you can always go back to my resource list end of this section. You can find out. And this is a text file which I'm gonna going to upload. You can find here these two links are relevant to this section, which is nothing but a built-in ID or built-in iOS you can use in Intune. Let's click OK, which we have created under the folder. Let's also add for the just the app. For example, instead of earlier we tried with the folder, now let's add as the app name. So here I can give the app name, and to add here the app name and app bundle, definitely I need to go to the Microsoft site or iOS relevant Apple website and get that specific information. For example, I want to add maybe a mail. So the mail would be here written as com.apple.mobile email. So simply I go back to my portal and give here the bundle name, and make sure that there is no space, and here I can give as a mail, and that way it's going to add my mail configuration here in my docking. And now let's go to the pages, and in fact here you can add some of the pages the way we just added did. Like if you are specifically looking some kind of apps, maybe for the gaming apps, or maybe for the productivity, or maybe for the Word documentation, or VPN relevant, such things can be added in the paging configuration. For example, I can add it here. Earlier we added for the Microsoft education. Now we are going to add it here, maybe for example games as one of the example, and then I can add here the games relevant applications. In this case I'm going to add as app, and the required apps I can add directly here. I can get this bundle ID information from the Microsoft site and simply go back here and add here as that same value, and I'll remove that extra spaces and say here the game center, I wanted that to be taken out into that specific page, and simply click OK. That would add these settings and click OK. So the settings are gonna configure. Remember that you can add up to 40 pages on a device, and if you add more than 60 items or the apps as a combined in a folder, then it's gonna move to the next pages. So just do remember that word, and then you can continue further. And let's jump into the other sections within this. For example, the app notification here. The app notification has only one setting here. So what exactly the app notification? App notification is a notification toasters which appears on your devices or on your iOS devices. These specific devices are at least to be supported with 9.3 or later of operating system. Let's try to add at least one of the notification setting by clicking add here. If you can see here the 9.3, as I said, these are the settings of minimum requirement. And app bundle ID, as you know that you can get it from the Microsoft site or from the Apple website, so that you can get this exact Apple bundle ID. So in my case, I'm gonna add one of the bundle ID here. Like I'm gonna add here calendar, and this is going to be the bundle ID. So mobile calc is the ID, and I can give the publisher is it's going to be Apple. If I'm not going to configure anything, I can just leave that also. That's not a problem. As long as app name is unique, that's fine. And now I'm going to the notifications, and I can say, hey, I want the notifications for my all calendars so that I get alerted whenever my meetings or my some kind of reminders are coming up on my calendar. Now I'm going to enable that, and now in the show notification center, do you want me to show in the notification center? If so, you can configure yes as enable, and enable also if you want to view those notifications on your calendar specific on your lock screen, if you're interested, you can configure this specific setting. It all depends on your organization, design, mobile device management, design specific settings. So if you gather that or the discovered, and if you collected that these specific setting must be configured as this, then you need to configure the specific settings as per your document. Now I'm gonna also take a lid type. It's going to be banner or model, and badge on the app icon if you want, like how many alerts are showing up. And sound, if you want just enable the sound, it's going to play a default sound for the notification. Click OK. That's going to add here a notification. Click OK to complete your notification. Now let's go to the lock screen message. Configure this. There are two different options what you can see, but before configuring on anything, you need to understand when to configure this. To give the explanation, use these specific settings to show a custom message or a text on your sign-in screen, so that if found that specific device with unauthorized person found that specific device, he can return that device if that text can be seen. For example, here you can give as a message as well as the asset tag information. So message is something you can configure here, like, hey, this device is owned by, for example, my company name or my serial number. I can give it here. And the asset tag information is where I can give the information along with my serial number. Hey, this is the asset with this asset tag. So how the message looks like is like, if lost or written, here I can say that, hey, if found, call to my company at so and so number. And the asset tag information is with the serial number, so that the whoever picks up that phone number, he knows that, oh, you're talking about this specific device, and this device belongs to maybe Bob or someone who is in your company, and whatever the information you're getting is trusted. Such a way you can configure here. Let me give a configuration here and show you. It appears like a font, a call at so and so number, and asset tag information. That's it. That would configures the lock screen information. Now let's point to the single sign-on. Single sign-on is most line of business applications required. In fact, some level of user authentication to support the security level. In many cases, the authentication requires the user to enter their credential repeatedly. So this single sign-on will eliminate that process, because sometimes, which is frustrating for the users. To improve the user experience, or developers can create apps that use single sign-on method. So single sign-on reduce basically the number of attempts or times the user must enter their credentials. To configure this, you can go to this specific setting and say, instead of the not configure, you can choose here. You're gonna configure based on the attribute of AAD, which is directly from the Azure AD device ID or Intune device ID or UPN name. So if the UPN means the on-premises users also can be used here, along with the cloud users also, which are coming from again AAD. If your domain, like I have shown you in the initial sections, how to verify your domain. If that is verified and your on-premises domain also have the UPN name, then you can use this mechanism. Let me put you an example here for use case also, so that you would be easy to understand another way. So for example, if you have a company that has split into different regions, for example, it might be in Europe, Asia, or North America. So your company wanted specifically from Asia users to use the single sign-on, and your app requires the UPN in the username at asia.yourdomainname.com format. When you select user principal name, the real name for each user is taken from Azure 8. In the example, yourdomainname.com. So for the users coming from Asia, they may have the UPN, which is, for example, username at asia.yourdomainname.com. So we need to give that information also here. So let me give here information so that it would be more clear for you what I'm talking. If you see here, I have given here real information as omnia.com, and my URL is HTTPS, it should be in this format, either HTTP or HTTPS, but it should be in the same format. But for iOS 10 and above devices version, you can give as .dot also, so it takes all the matching domain names. For example, if you have the child as the Asia, so it can work, but not for the 9.3 versions or whatever the lower version of 10.0 version of iOS. It doesn't work. So if it is just the above 10 version, then you can use this kind of configuration to add. So simply add that URL so that it's going to add it. And now you can give the Apple bundle ID of your apps to use that single specifically, because this specific setting is for single sign-on, so you need to give that specific app, so that specific app can be used and can be benefited for the single sign-on, so that users no need to enter again and again the username and password for that specific application. Let me configure here a sample application bundle name, which is my app in this case, and here the app name I have given, and simply I can add here so that it's not going to be asked. And coming back to the certificates, if at all you are actually using certificates for authentication, not as the password mechanism, then you need to select the SEP or PFX certificates as the authentication certificate. Then this configuration can be used. Basically, this kind of certificate is the same certificate that you deploy to the end users for other profiles, such as maybe a VPN or Wi-Fi or email communications, not for the generally this kind of URL. So in my case, I can't use the certificate for this purpose of demo. I can use any case if I'm trying to use for the VPN or Wi-Fi or email based on my SFX or maybe a PFX certificates. In that case, I can use this specific option. You can check that information here. Now I can click on OK, so that the single sign-on configuration is done. Now we're gonna configure the web content filter. These settings controls basically the browser URL access on a iOS devices. As Intune admin, you can also block web content filter. Now you have the options here: configure URLs or specific websites only. So if you configure the web URLs, it's going to be what kind of URLs you want to permit it, or what kind of website you want to block it. So this kind of configuration you can do it. The URL can be entered here. You need to remember that when you configure the URLs, it's going to be Apple's built-in web filter that looks for different terms like adult terms or including profanity or sexuality, explicit language. These features are evaluates basically each web page as it loads and identifies and blocks unsuitable content. You can also add URLs that you don't want checked by the filter. For example, you can add a specific website you don't want checked by that filter, or you can block specific URLs regardless Apple filter settings, and you can configure here for the permitted or in the blocked section. Otherwise, it's almost like your firewall level, a kind of category that you don't want to allow users to browse. Such things can be done from the content web filter with configured URLs. Now I'm gonna back to specific websites. These specific websites are basically for the Safari web browser only, not for other apps. Okay, and these URLs are added to the Safari browser's bookmarks, so the users only allowed to visit the specific sites. No other sites can be opened or directly from the address bar. And use this option if you know what exactly the list and URLs that you want to allow the users, or you want to grant for the users. Otherwise, don't use this specific configuration. Otherwise, you may you may have to face your users. One more important point would be, if you don't enter any of the URLs but you configure this, what happens is you can browse apple.com, you can browse microsoft.com, or you can browse anything related to Microsoft.net websites. These are the three URLs automatically allowed by Intune. Otherwise this Intune itself doesn't work. So these are allowed in this category. Now let's jump into the configuration part. I think I choose in here. Let me notch a configure here and go back to new setting which is wallpapers configuration. In the wallpaper configuration, you can add your custom PNG or JPG or JPEG image so that on your iOS devices. For example, you can use your company logo or on the lock screen, for example, or these kind of configurations can be done so that it will be looks like a company device altogether once it's, and make sure that you don't mix up this specific wallpaper setting with multiple profile configuration and assign to a specific user. If you do so, you may experience unexpected behavior on the user devices for the image loading options. Let's have a look on wallpaper display location, whether it's going to be lock screen or home screen or both in this case. So if you want that specific set image should be appear on both the cases like lock screen as well as in the home, you can choose this and you can browse that JPEG or JPG file so that, or PNG file, so that it can be applied as a wallpaper for you. Let's add one of the PNG file that we have here. I have this Microsoft Intune logo. Think that if it's my company logo, I can simply add this as a PNG file so that it will be appearing on the logon screen as well as the lock screen, and also as a home page. Both the cases it would be appearing. So I just click on OK, and these are the 11 different settings what we have tried, and out of one setting we configured, two of two, one of one. So we configure everything except if you can look at here, one setting, single sign-on one, was not configured, which is relevant to the certificates. And also we didn't configure here for the web configuration. Other than that, everything we did in detailed explanation and how to configure and what are those options, how to enter those values, and how to get those specific values from Microsoft site or maybe from the Apple website. And then once you have done everything, you can create this policy as you want, and you can simply assign this assignment to a specific device group. For example, you can assign this group to only for iOS devices if you have Azure AD group at all. But in my case, I'm going to assign for my all users and all devices in this case, just for the demo purpose. And that would actually create proper assignment if at all you created and added that specifically required targets. Thank you for watching this. We'll continue with other profile configuration in the upcoming lectures.